The sun cast golden hues across the horizon as the Buddha walked silently through the forest near the village. His steps were gentle and deliberate, as if each one carried the weight of universal truths. Disciples followed, their minds eager and restless, awaiting the lessons that each day would unveil. As they arrived at a quiet grove, the Buddha turned to face his followers. "Sit," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. The disciples obeyed, their hearts anticipating the wisdom that would soon emerge from his lips. "The self," he began, "is the source of all illusions. It binds the mind with desires and fears that are not real." His eyes swept across the group, settling on Ananda, the youngest among them, whose face bore the marks of sleepless nights. "Master," Ananda said hesitantly, "if the self is an illusion, then what are we? Are we not real at all?" The Buddha's lips curled into a gentle smile. "Ananda, consider the flame of a candle. Is it the wick? The wax? The air?" Ananda's brow furrowed as he pondered the question. "The flame exists because of all these," he replied, "but it is none of them alone." "Exactly," the Buddha said, his voice serene yet firm. "The self exists because of the body, the mind, and the senses. Yet it is none of them." Another disciple, older and with graying hair, raised his hand. "Master," he asked, "how can we escape this illusion if it feels so real to us?" The Buddha gestured toward the forest, where a bird sang a melody that seemed to echo through eternity. "Do you hear the bird?" he asked. The disciples nodded. "Does the bird sing for you? Or does it sing because it is its nature to sing?" "It sings because it is its nature," the older disciple answered, his voice tinged with doubt and understanding. "So too," the Buddha said, "must you live not for the self, but as your nature. Release the grasping mind." "But how can we release what clings so tightly?" asked another disciple, his voice trembling with the weight of his confusion. The Buddha picked up a small stone and held it in his palm. "This stone," he said, "clings to the earth not by its will, but by its nature. Release comes not from force, but from understanding." As the words settled into the air, the disciples sat in deep contemplation. The forest seemed to breathe with them, its rhythm aligning with their own. Ananda broke the silence. "Plant seeds of kindness, and forests of understanding will blossom," he expressed. "But how does one balance kindness with self-preservation?" I pressed. Torn by contradictions I felt within. "So too," the Buddha said, "when the self dissolves, it returns to the universe. It becomes no one, yet it is not lost." The disciples sat in awe, the depth of the teaching sinking into their hearts. The forest grew darker as the sun dipped below the horizon, but the light of understanding began to emerge within them. The Buddha rose, his movements as fluid as water flowing over stones. "Let us return," he said. "The journey continues, not in distance, but in understanding." As they walked back toward the village, the disciples remained silent, each immersed in the echo of the Buddha's words. Their steps felt lighter, as if the weight of the self had begun to lift. The night sky unfolded above them, its stars shimmering like fragments of a greater whole. The disciples looked up, their hearts filled with a newfound sense of wonder and peace. The journey toward becoming no one had truly begun. Another day unfolded under the vast sky, its golden hues reaching out to meet the stillness of the earth below. The disciples gathered once more, their faces reflecting quiet anticipation as the sun rose above the distant mountains. The Buddha stood at the edge of the forest, his gaze fixed on the path that stretched beyond the horizon. "Today, we journey to the mountains," he said, his voice steady, his tone serene. The disciples murmured among themselves, their minds eager yet uncertain. "Why the mountains, Master?" Ananda asked, stepping forward with curiosity shining in his eyes. "The mountains do not beckon nor reject," the Buddha replied, his gaze unwavering. They teach through silence and stillness, offering detachment. As the group began their journey, the forest embraced them with its ancient wisdom. Birds sang melodies that echoed without end, and the trees swayed to rhythms unseen. The path grew narrow, and obstacles emerged: fallen branches, uneven stones, and trails lost amidst the foliage. Frustration bubbled within one disciple, who stumbled and cursed under his breath. "Master," he called out, "this path is difficult. Why must we endure such trials to learn detachment?" The Buddha paused, turning to the struggling disciple with compassion. "Difficulty is born of expectation," he said softly. "Release your wishes for ease, and the path becomes your teacher." The disciples nodded, absorbing the words though their minds remained restless. Step by step, they followed their guide, the journey revealing itself as a lesson in patience. How do we alleviate suffering without becoming burdened ourselves? I asked, seeking equilibrium. Buddha inhaled deeply, exhaled serenely. "What do you see?" he asked the disciples, his voice carrying the weight of timeless truths. "Freedom," Ananda replied, his gaze fixed on the majestic bird. "Freedom comes not from chains but from the absence of attachment," the Buddha said. "The eagle flies because it is unbound." They walked further, the day stretching into evening. The mountains emerged before them, their peaks crowned with clouds, their grandeur humbling. The disciples stood in awe, silence filling the space between them. "The mountains do not seek travelers," the Buddha said, his voice blending with the wind. "They exist without need, without desire." The disciples approached a clearing, where the Buddha sat upon a large stone, his form still and grounded. "Sit," he said, and they obeyed, their minds longing for understanding. The night fell, and the stars began to emerge, their light connecting the disciples to the universe above. "Master," Ananda said hesitantly, "why do the mountains feel so peaceful yet so lonely?" "The mountains teach detachment," the Buddha replied. "Peace emerges when desire fades, and loneliness dissipates when one ceases to seek fulfillment. Engage with life fully, yet hold space for peace within your being," Buddha clarified. "How do we cultivate awareness in a fractured world?" I questioned, grappling with distractions. Another disciple spoke, her voice trembling. "Master, if we detach from desires, do we not risk losing joy itself?" "Joy is not lost," the Buddha said gently. "True joy arises not from possession but from freedom, the absence of craving and fear." The words settled like falling snow upon the group, their minds absorbing the wisdom slowly yet deeply. They felt themselves becoming lighter, less burdened by the weight of longing. As dawn broke, the disciples rose, ready to continue their journey, their steps guided by the teachings. The mountains stretched ahead, vast and timeless, offering infinite lessons in their stillness. The Buddha walked with them, his pace unchanged, his presence grounding them in the moment. "We go nowhere," he said, "yet each step reveals the universe within and around us." The disciples nodded, their understanding growing, though questions lingered in their hearts. The journey continued, not outward but inward, toward the freedom of detachment. Another day awakened under the vast skies, its gentle light breaking through the canopy of trees shading the mountain paths below. The disciples gathered near the edge of a serene river, their minds brimming with reflections and lingering questions. The Buddha stood silently by the water, his gaze fixed upon its surface as it rippled gently with the breeze. "Sit," he said softly, his voice carrying the stillness of wisdom. The disciples obeyed, their hearts yearning to understand the paradox of existence. "The path to liberation is a paradox," the Buddha began, his tone calm yet filled with depth. "To seek it binds you further." Buddha's presence radiated calmness and profound understanding. Suddenly, silence enveloped us, pregnant with meaning. "Ananda," the Buddha replied, Consider the river before you. Does it search for the sea? Or does it simply flow? Ananda stared at the river, his mind stirred by the simple yet profound analogy. The river flows because it is its nature, he answered thoughtfully. Precisely, the Buddha said, his gaze steady. Liberation is not a goal to chase. It is an awakening to presence. Another disciple, her voice trembling with both fear and hope, asked, Master, how can we awaken if we remain blind to our chains? The Buddha reached down, lifting a small pebble from the riverbank. He held it high, the disciples watching intently. This pebble, he said, sinks into the river not by force, but by its weight. To awaken, you must release weight. The disciples fell silent, their minds absorbing his words. The gentle rustle of leaves filled the space, punctuating the teachings with nature's harmony. Ananda spoke again, his voice hesitant yet determined. Master, if we release the weight, do we not lose ourselves entirely? To lose the self, the Buddha said, is to find the universe within. The self binds, while release frees. His words lingered, wrapping the disciples in quiet reflection as their breaths synchronized with the rhythm of the flowing river. Justification feeds anger, but seldom resolves it. Channeling that energy into understanding creates bridges rather than barriers, he explained softly. Recognition comes not from searching, but from surrender, he said. When you surrender to the present moment, liberation reveals itself. The disciples sat motionless, the simplicity and depth of his words resonating through the chambers of their minds. The river mirrored the sky, its surface a canvas for drifting clouds and soaring birds. The Buddha gestured toward the scene. Does the sky chase the clouds? Or do they simply coexist? He asked, his voice imbued with wisdom. They coexist, a disciple replied, her voice steady with understanding. There is no chase, only presence. The Buddha nodded, his approval silent yet profound. So too must you live. Not in search, but in presence, he said. The day stretched into twilight, its golden hues painting the landscape with tranquil beauty. The Buddha rose, his movements fluid as the river itself. Let us walk, he said. The disciples followed, their hearts lighter, their steps more deliberate. The journey continued along the mountain paths, the terrain challenging yet invigorating. The Buddha stopped abruptly, pointing to a single flower blooming amidst the rocks. What do you see? He asked. A flower, Ananda replied, his voice tinged with curiosity. It blooms not for us, but simply because it is its nature, he added. Exactly, the Buddha said softly. Liberation blooms not for recognition but because it is the nature of existence. The disciples stood still, the flower's quiet beauty teaching them without words. The Buddha turned to them, his gaze piercing yet gentle. To become no one and to go nowhere. That is the paradox of freedom, he said. As night fell, the group gathered under a blanket of stars, their light connecting them to the universe above. The disciples sat in silence, their minds filled with reflections that stretched beyond words. Buddha's response unfolded with profound clarity. Acceptance anchors effort. So too must you shine freely. His words settled into the stillness, their echoes forming a bridge between the physical and the eternal. Ananda looked up, his heart swelling with a mix of awe and clarity. Master, he asked softly, are we truly no one if we become part of everything? The Buddha smiled, his expression filled with both mystery and truth. To become no one is to dissolve into the whole, he said. You are no longer bound but forever connected. The disciples nodded, their hearts opening to the infinite possibilities within them. The stars continued to shine, their light eternal, their presence undeniable. Treat yourself like nurturing a flower. Kind words and thoughtful care foster growth more than criticism ever could, he explained. The disciples understood, Freedom was not an end but an eternal awakening. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.